Welcome everybody to Raina Teachings. For those of you that are new, my name is Camacho and I am the trance channel to a being named Raina. I was also a clairvoyant and a healer for 18 years. And together we speak about many different spiritual topics. Sometimes I channel them with Raina, and sometimes I speak about them on my own, like I'm going to do tonight. And tonight our subject is on the Kundalini Awakening. So what the Kundalini Awakening is, what it is not, and also some of the things that you may experience or may be experiencing during a Kundalini Awakening. Before we get started, if you can like and subscribe below, that helps me to continue to make videos for you. Also, if you have a subject that you would like to hear about either from myself or Raina, you can pop it in the comments below. I will get it and it will most likely show up in a future video. Also hit the bell if you want to be notified of our upcoming videos. We publish a video about once a week. All right, so on to the Kundalini Awakening. So I created another video called The Spiritual Awakening or Symptoms of a Spiritual Awakening. I will link that as well in the description box below if you would like to watch that video. It kind of goes along with this video. The first thing I'll say is that a spiritual awakening is often accompanied by the Kundalini Awakening, but they are separate things. So you can have a spiritual awakening and not have a Kundalini Awakening, but you cannot have a Kundalini Awakening and not have a spiritual awakening. So that is how that works. I have had a total of 4 Kundalini Awakenings in my life. I will speak from experience with some of these particular symptoms because of that. And some Kundalini Awakenings will go on for quite a while, sometimes months, sometimes, for years. I've been lucky enough to have them be a little shorter in duration. Your spiritual awakening will often ebb and flow throughout your life, and that is in fact what the spiritual awakening does. And you'll plateau at certain times, and then you'll have another spiritual awakening, but it will come and go, and it will not be quite as intense as what a Kundalini Awakening is. So a Kundalini Awakening is what it sounds like. Your Kundalini, there is an energy that is coiled at the bottom of your spine that awakens. It opens up, and the way that it looked to me intuitively was almost as if this energy, this cone energy, had been turned upside down and was spouting energy up through my central channel. This is part of how I became a trance channel. One of the symptoms I personally had was channeling in my sleep. Imagine that. I didn't even know what channeling was at the time. I was 26 years old the first time I had a Kundalini Awakening. I did not know what was happening to me, which is why I wanted to make this video. So if some of you are having this experience, hopefully this can be helpful to some of you. So that was one of my experiences. So the Kundalini Awakening, this energy awakens in your body, and it becomes a very physical thing. Where the spiritual awakening can be very emotional, the Kundalini Awakening is extremely physical. So you can actually have pain in certain parts of your body. I used to get these strange brain pains. I would even feel like sometimes my arms and legs were kind of numb. I had this numb feeling. And I was learning at that time how to go into meditation, breathe, and release energy and emotion. And so that's really what your Kundalini Awakening is attempting to help you to do. It is burning through a lot of really dense emotion and even past lifetimes, karma, and things you've accumulated over lifetimes. So it is akin to a much faster spiritual awakening, and so it is accompanied by these physical symptoms. So some of these physical symptoms that you can have during Kundalini are, again, pain in different parts of the body, very intense emotion, and also very intense heat or very intense cold. I even had that experience of having very intense cold. It would wake me up in the middle of the night, and I would find myself having to, figure out kind of, what's going on with me right now. And again, sometimes it was cold, sometimes it was very, very hot. So I had both of those extreme temperatures that would go on. The numbness would always make me feel like, after a while I learned that it was something coming up, and I would just go lay down in my bed. So this is a tool that you could use. I used to go lay down on my bed and just breathe. I would breathe really deeply, and then I would have a release. And when you have releases on Kundalini, when you're having a Kundalini awakening, they can be very intense. I have had, people that I've seen privately tell me that they are having orgasmic experiences even. I wasn't lucky enough to have one of those, but I did have an orgasmic-like situation in my body where when I would do that breathing laying in my bed, an intense amount of energy would all of a sudden release through my root chakra and my feet and even my crown chakra, and it would all release at the same time. And I would start shaking and crying, and then I would go from being very hot to all of a sudden being very, very cold. So the Kundalini awakening, it's burning up these, dense energies that are in your body, and so they have to release. So sometimes people will experience having, multiple orgasms a day without trying to do anything about that, or it will be this other feeling that I described where you're just releasing energy through your root chakra and your crown. So that is one of the symptoms of the Kundalini awakening. Another one is really changing very quickly. Like maybe before you were this other person, and even your friends and family will say, wow, Jamie all of a sudden turned into this completely different person. You're not really a different person, but you're letting go of this maybe facade that you were carrying before, even if you didn't know that you were carrying it. And that is one of the purposes of the Kundalini awakening, is to really let that go and just be who you are. So the Kundalini awakening really, trims off all that heavy bark so that you can just be who you are. But other people may see that as you changing and becoming this completely different person very quickly. Another symptom of the Kundalini awakening, and this can also go with the spiritual awakening, is intense dreaming. So I would have such intense dreams that I felt that I was really there. So very lucid-like intense dreams that have feeling in them as well. So feeling emotion, even feeling pain in the dreams, and really needing to wake up to realize that you're in a dream and not actually in the place that you're dreaming about. So very lucid, intense dreaming happens with the Kundalini awakening. Also, the Kundalini awakening can happen, it happens very quickly. So the first one I had went on for about 4 years. So that was kind of a long period of time. The second Kundalini awakening that I had went on for about 2 years. I thought that was a long time. Then I had 2 Kundalini awakenings that literally happened like within a few days. One was when I had my son, actually, when I was about to become pregnant with my son. I had a Kundalini awakening over a weekend. And this time I knew what was happening to me, but I didn't know why exactly. And 2 very important events were about to occur in my life. I was about to help my mother pass to the other side, and I was about to get pregnant with my son, who is now 8 years old. He's actually a very spiritual kid, and so now I understand why that happened. But I had to open much more because my experience with my mom, I didn't have a good relationship with her, and I needed to really heal a lot of things in her passing process. And I might not have done that if Spirit did not come along and give me this Kundalini awakening. Another note about what Kundalini is. What is Kundalini? So you'll hear me use that word spirit. It is that, but it is also really the energy of the earth. It is this very ancient, old, earthy energy. So it's not like the spirit energy that comes in during the spiritual awakening, which is kind of up here and can feel light and like it's coming from above or within. This comes from within, but it comes from below. So that is how you know it's Kundalini energy and not just, spirit energy, such as during a spiritual awakening. It's a very deep, primal energy. It can feel very dense, actually, and you really feel it as coming from below. And that energy, it starts to rise up in your body, and as it does that, it will burn through sometimes physical ailments as well. So that's another symptom of Kundalini awakening. I actually had a problem with bladder infections for about 4 years straight that were so bad. I just had a constant bladder infection. So if I did not drink water all night long, like wake up and drink water all night long, there's times I had to go to the hospital the next day because my bladder infection was just this constant thing. And it was very strange, and nothing took it away. There was no antibiotics, did not work, nothing worked. But when I had this Kundalini awakening, I had one night where the Kundalini energy was so strong, and I actually, ended up sitting down because the energy was so intense, and I felt this, and I really felt like I had to go to the bathroom, honestly. That's how I felt. So I sat on the toilet, to be honest with you. This crazy amount of energy came out of my root chakra, but it was just energy. Nothing else came out. And I could feel it burn through the back of my second chakra and my lower back as well. And I never had a bladder infection again. So I literally had a instantaneous healing from this Kundalini awakening that I was having. And this was during my second Kundalini awakening, not my first one. So that was a really amazing experience that I got to have. And I have heard of other people having diseases either come up during the Kundalini awakening, but also being healed during the Kundalini awakening. And so mine is probably minor compared to some people, but it was pretty, amazing actually, and showed me how powerful this energy really is and how necessary it is, along with the physical healing that I had. That night when that energy was releasing through me, I had a lot of visions about what that energy was. So visions are another symptom of the Kundalini awakening. You can have, visions about a lot of different things, all concerning your healing. So Kundalini awakening does not happen for fun. It doesn't happen because you want it to. It happens because it's supposed to. And that primal, earthy mother energy is really blessing you and coming and helping you to really accelerate your healing process on this earth. So I most definitely had an accelerated spiritual awakening during all 4 of these Kundalini awakenings. Another symptom of Kundalini awakening is your interests completely changing. So things that you really cared about before, all of a sudden you don't care about at all, as if you never cared about them. So some of these are frivolous things, but the reason for it, I think, is purpose. Really, your soul purpose is starting to be revealed to you, or at least your soul is being prepared for that purpose to be revealed. So things that you really cared about before that maybe are frivolous or kind of ego-based really fall away. And you realize there is a much bigger purpose in the world, not just for you, but for everybody. And some of these mindless things, such as your looks, such as, caring about, who said what to who and what you were missing out on Facebook, all those things fall away because they just don't matter. And the Kundalini Awakening, like literally overnight, it can happen where you realize like none of these things matter and I'm a different person. I also went through not wanting to dye my hair, or some of those things came back too, especially with making YouTube videos. But I did go through about 4.5 years where I had no desire to put any hair color in my hair or really use anything that was unnatural. I still use all natural products. But I did, go back to dyeing my hair at a certain point. But that is also something that can happen where you become much more natural with your environment, the products that you use, and the way, you become more mindful of what you're putting back into the world because you realize that it matters. The Kundalini Awakening also awakens your creativity. So you may have gifts that you don't know about. For instance, my channeling, I had no idea that was ever going to happen to me. Not in a million years did I think I was going to become a trance channel or channel this being that was going to come through me. But my first Kundalini Awakening revealed that. It was my second Kundalini Awakening where I finally went and got training with a teacher and realized that this was going to be a real thing that I wasn't going to get away from. So it was a hidden creativity and gift that I had no idea that I had. So I've had people tell me that all of a sudden they wanted to paint and they had never painted in their life before, and all of a sudden they started painting. It can happen with music. It can happen with any variety of creative things. So the Kundalini Awakening, because it's moving up the spine, right, burning through these dense energies, once it goes through particular chakras, it will wake up anything that is lying dormant there. So if you have a hidden gift in your second chakra, which is your creativity chakra, it's gonna show up at some point in your Kundalini Awakening. And it won't look perfect, by the way. So when I woke up channeling in my sleep, it was not pretty. It was actually a little bit scary for me until I, researched channeling and realized what was happening to me. But it wasn't Raina right away. It was other beings. And I still had to go and develop it. And I had to go find a teacher, find a class, and go through the process of channeling in order to, hone it and develop it and allow it to grow up. So your creativities can awaken during the Kundalini Awakening, but I still suggest getting assistance and help and development, going through a development process with it. I think that is about all I'm going to talk about with the Kundalini Awakening now. If you have any other questions about the Kundalini Awakening, anything I didn't cover, I'm sure there's a ton of things that I didn't cover, but I wanted to speak about my own experience with it and hopefully help some of you that are going through a Kundalini Awakening in your own life. So until next time, much love and good night.